Hi, I'm Sketchy Recovery, and I'm trying to be just a little bit better today than I was yesterday. I drew 100 heads in 10 days. Kind of. We'll get to that in a little bit. But I was inspired by a challenge originally created by the artist Ahmed Al-Duri. The video of his original challenge from 2019 will be linked down in the description below if you'd like to take a look at it. As soon as I heard about this challenge, I knew it was something that I wanted to try and that I wanted to make a video about because it felt like a really nice opportunity to progress in my ability to draw faces, as well as it put a limit on myself because in order to get 100 done in 10 days, at a certain point I was going to have to give up on portraits and call it good enough, and or even just outright fail at a portrait and still just move on and do the 100. I also really wanted it to be a practice in sustainability within making art for me because I'm someone who's often like had something for a day or two and then dropped it as an interest. And I really wanted to see something through. My guiding principle in general, I think, is documenting the messiness of the process of getting better and the process of not being perfect because it's okay and it has to happen. And it doesn't mean that it's not beautiful and it doesn't mean that there's not something to take out of it. So that's why I wanted to draw 100 heads in 10 days. And I hope you will enjoy as I take you on the journey of those 10 days. Let's get started. So, day one was all energy, no plan. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to draw one face on every page of this brand new sketchpad that I got just for this project. And I was knew that that day I was going to do 10, and all I knew beyond that was I was going to do that until I drew 100 heads. I set up an art hangout with one of my friends. She had just gotten commissioned to paint a mural, so I was keeping her company while she was getting things set up with that and just drawing my portraits. And it was such a lovely time. I got 5 of them done during that time. I also decided to start putting timestamps on the portraits when I finished them. I don't know why I did it. I didn't really do much with it, but I just wanted to do it. I wanted to document exactly when it finished. I went home and I did 5 more after I fed myself. And all I'd really been doing that day was just picking portraits off of Pinterest that drew my interest in that moment. And I had a lot of fun that day. And I was playing around with colors and things like that in some really interesting ways. And it felt really good. It felt so good, in fact, that I was like, "Ooh, let me keep going. Let me do more," because the voice in the back of my head was really just telling me that if I only did 10 today, eventually by the end, I was going to get so tired that I wasn't going to finish the 100. So I needed to take advantage of having that energy now. But I knew that I couldn't do that at the end of the day and still finish the project. I was going to burn myself out. Part of it was to make each day a little bit more exciting because I was already having a hard time picking pictures. But another part was to make sure that each day was only 10. I started picking my pictures one day in advance and I started theming my days. So that's going to bring us to day two was all about women's basketball. I got into the WNBA specifically last year during the finals. Recurring side character from my Coffee and a Cartoons, my girlfriend, introduced me to it during the finals. And while I was watching, I just started getting really into it. And by the end of the finals, my favorite player was Satu Sabli. That offseason, we ended up going to the Unrivaled event in Philly, and the experience was just amazing. It was an amazing atmosphere to be in, and just to see so many people supporting women's sports was so cool. And so I knew that I had to devote a day to just 10 inspirational women who are making women's sports happen and are part of something awesome. From an artistic side, the hardest thing was that these poses are a lot more dynamic than I think I'm used to drawing. Turns out that sports photography tends not to be as staged as just regular portraits. So a lot of the angles and a lot of the expressions are just a lot more than what I'd been seeing in what I'd been practicing with up until that point. So I was definitely stretching and flexing some artistic muscles that I hadn't really before. As the day kept going, though, I feel like I definitely gained some confidence, and I think by the end, I was really getting some drawings that I was really proud of. Not to say that I'm not proud of all of them, but you're more proud of some children than you are of others. Just how it goes. That was day 2, was all about WNBA, and that will bring us to. So on day 3, my lesbianism won just a little bit, and I spent the day drawing female firefighters. Before you send me to horny jail, uh, the main way that I came to this idea will take a reality show tangent to get to. Right before my last roommate moved out of state, we ended up watching together this Korean reality show, Siren Survive Fire Island. I don't fully know how to describe it succinctly. The general premise is that there are 6 teams of women who are in male dominated fields, and one of them was a team of firefighters, and they just stole my heart in that show. They were absolutely my favorite team, and just the way that they came together and supported each other was so cool to me. I wanted to spend a day drawing some women who are awesome in a field that is so male dominated. And it was really cool while I was looking for photos on Pinterest of some female firefighters. The second to last photo that I drew of that day, so photo 29, was there was this beautiful caption on Pinterest. Uh, just celebrating this woman, talking about what an amazing mom she was while also being a firefighter. And I felt so lucky to stumble upon that and get to draw that day. It was just a wonderful day of drawing, and I'm so proud of how so many of these came out. The very first one that I drew, 21 with the sunglasses, I just I like the way that the brush came out on the sunglasses. It wasn't really something I'd tried before, but it was something that just it felt right in that moment, and I just wanted to try things and see how it came out. And that's how day 3 came out, which will bring us to day 4. Went to the Renaissance Fair. I love Renaissance fairs. I only really went as a child. I need to go again as an adult. I just have so many positive memories of getting all dressed up and my mom making costumes for me. And I just love the whole high fantasy aesthetic. I have way too many hours in Baldur's Gate 3 and wanted to put some intricate details into some costuming and just have some fun because I felt like I was getting a little overly serious yesterday when I was drawing real like famous people, and I just wanted to, I don't know, have a little bit of fun, draw an aesthetic that I love and get to focus on some really cool costuming details. I'm a giant nerd. I like D&D. I want to draw armor. Ah! I am so happy with how these came out. I will say that my girlfriend did point out a few of them are a little armless, but that's okay. This was one of my favorite sets of 10 out of all of the ones that I did. I think it's just an aesthetic that I really like. The detailing is super fun to me. It was a day that I think flew by a lot faster than some of the other ones because it just felt like a fun day. I don't know what necessarily it was about that. I do think that not creating a face that is like recognizable to lots of people, like celebrity or anything like that, did take some pressure off in my mind and helped me enjoy the process a little bit more. I don't have much more to say beyond that. Before we get started on day 5, I have a confession to make. I don't really listen to music except for one genre, which unfortunately, you're probably going to guess it. It is hyperpop. So I spent a day drawing some of my favorite trans people in the world of music, as well as just some that I will admit I had to look up because I don't really listen to music. But 100 gex and underscore specifically are 2 artists that I've really gravitated towards and that have really been impactful to me, even though I don't listen to a ton of music. And it still felt like a cool way to spend a day. It was a set of 10 that I was excited about going into, but it was a set of 10 that also solidified that I don't like drawing like recognizable faces that are realistic, because the realism is where I start to really feed into my want for perfectionism. I was wanting perfection so bad that I am so sorry, Arca. I totally put those eyes not on the same level. And that was just me seizing up out of like really feeling this need to replicate. And so I knew that, like in my coffee and cartoons, I want to keep the rule of having fun while I'm making art. I needed to make a pivot away from the more realistic faces and take a little bit of ownership over what it was that I wanted to be drawing if I was going to make the rest of this project enjoyable. So I knew that going into the next day, I was going to have to make a big change. And so that brings us to One Piece Day. Yeah, I spent day 6 drawing characters from One Piece. I've only started watching the show relatively recently, so I just finished the Naval Fortress arc at the time of recording. So I wanted to draw all of the crew at the time that I'm watching. So we've got Robin, Tony Chopper, Usopp, Sanji, Nami, Zoro, and Luffy. Zoro's my personal favorite, gotta say. And then to round it out, we've got Buggy, Ace, and Shanks. I got into One Piece at a rather low point in my life. I was in an intensive outpatient program due to my bipolar, and I was just looking around the room having a bad day. And someone else in the room was wearing a One Piece sweatshirt, and I was like, "You like One Piece enough to have this sweatshirt. Maybe I should give it a try." And just fell in love with the show. And it's part of what inspired me to make the series Coffee and a Cartoon, because just the way in which all of these characters are going after something that they care about so wholeheartedly. And I knew that I wanted to do that with creativity in one way or another. And so I wanted to go wholeheartedly into the channel Sketchy Recovery. And I have been so glad that I've done it, and I couldn't have done it without One Piece in a weird way. And so it didn't feel right for this project to not have One Piece. These are like absolutely recognizable faces, but I loved drawing these because they're not like realism, and it's just something that I have to realize for myself and I have to remind myself of. Like, one form of art is not above another. There is no hierarchy to this. It's just creativity, love, and joy and gratitude. And this is a show that I love and I have a lot of gratitude towards and brings me a lot of joy. So I wanted to make sure that it got included in this project. So that was One Piece Day. So fun. So fun. I think this is up there with Ren Fair Day for my favorite. It's hard to say between the two. But I think that's all I've got to say on One Piece Day, and we are going to move on to Day 7 was all about the quote unquote golden age of animation. So we've got characters like Betty Boop, Mighty Mouse. Those two were my favorite to draw, and I think they came out amazingly. As well as Looney Tunes. My personal favorite Looney Tune is Marvin the Martian, but I've drawn him a couple times on this channel, so I wanted to give someone else a chance, and drew Daffy. I love just old style animated shorts. Watch so many of them on Boomerang. Hanna-Barbera misses the golden age of animation cutoff by just a little bit, but I do want to shout them out because Wacky Racers was an absolute favorite of mine growing up. And today was a super fun day. I feel like just further stretching that definition of like what I thought ahead was going to be coming into this. I mean, I did not think I was going to be drawing a duck or a mouse, but it's absolutely ahead, and I'm going to count it. And I had so much fun. And I think that these came out wonderfully. It just affirms how much I love these animated styles, these cartoonish styles, and just the direction that I've been going in my art. because it's art is something that I have to want for myself. I can't make it because other people want me to make it or anything like that. I have to make it because it's authentic to me, because it's true to me. And yeah, I feel like I was really just taking this challenge in a way of ownership at this point. Like, I had forgotten really the start of it, and I just knew that I needed to pick days that inspired me until I hit that number 100. And I was going to keep doing that. And that brought us to day 8 is another confession day. So I tend to tell people that I have a cinema minor. Not technically true. I took all of the classes required to get a cinema minor, but I forgot to file the paperwork, so I never actually got the cinema minor. All of that to say is I have a love for cinema, and today is all about practical effects and practical costuming. So I went with the universal monsters from all of those movies: Creature of the Black Lagoon, Frankenstein, The Bride. We've got them all. And yes, there is Frankenstein in there and the monster. For a while there, growing up, Mythbusters had me thinking that I wanted to go into practical effects. It was a strong dream of mine for a while there to like be able to merge what was for myself like a strong background in math with like the creativity of cinema, and it felt like a perfect merger in my mind. But that slowly went away, and all that was left was my cinema minor. But I still just loved this little niche of creativity that I carved out for myself while I was feeling very pressed into a box of economic productivity at the time. So today is all about that. And I adore my drawing of The Invisible Man. I think it is one of my favorites of the entire collection. Yeah. So today was just all about like putting in work to make amazing things happen in makeup and costuming and prosthetics. Also, I loved my Creature of the Black Lagoon. So yeah, cinema, love it. Had to tell the little story. We drew some monsters. It was a great day. And we're going to move on to day 9. I took the day off. I was tired. I wanted to. We're going to move on. Day 10 is for the Muppets. It is a family tradition for my mom and I every Christmas Eve to watch the Muppets Christmas Carol specifically. It's just a really positive memory for me. I love the Muppets characters. I especially love Gonzo and Rizzo in that movie, so I had to include them in the 10. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just love Muppets and I wanted to draw them. And at this point, I was just drawing things that I wanted to. I started losing deeper meaning. We were trying to draw 100 heads in 10 days, and I'd already taken a day off. Day 11. I'd already broken enough rules at this point, so why not break some more? I just drew my own faces. Faces I just wanted to draw. I made them up. They're all made up. This was one of the quickest days for sure because I had nothing to judge myself against. These pictures are exactly as they were meant to be, whatever they look like. That was what was going to come out that day. I'm so glad that I ended it on this note because it just turned into a like freeing send off to what had been this overarching thought of mine for almost 2 weeks at this point. Like, it was every day waking up, I would fill my coffee in a cartoon, and then I would start drawing portraits. And it was just all I was thinking about for a while there. And it felt like a really nice way to send off this project. It was definitely a bit of a self-indulgent day for myself, I think. And I thought I'd earned it, and I made it to my 100 pictures. All right, before we get to the conclusion, this is the part where I have to interrupt a perfectly good video with some capitalism. If you do not have the means to support me right now, just like, comment, subscribe, and keep moving to that conclusion. But if you do, there is a Patreon with currently just one tier for $1 a month. It just gives you ad free access to the videos and your name in the credits. And then there is also a donation link down below if you would prefer to do a one time donation. Please only donate or subscribe to the Patreon if you have the means, but every little bit of support is appreciated. All right, Sketchy's going to get you the rest of that conclusion. So, in conclusion, this was a really cool experience. I feel like I went through so many different styles at the end, which was not something that I was expecting to do. I was really expecting to stay in that realistic vein the entire time. And it was a project about finding some boundaries for me, also about what it is that makes this fun for me. Because I think at the end of the day, while I want this channel to be about the messiness of the process, I also just want it to be about making joy because I know I've spent long enough doing everything I can to take joy away from myself. So I'm not spending any more time doing that, and I am putting my next foot forward each and every day to try and just be a little more joyful, a little more grateful, and a little more creative. I've been Sketchy Recovery. I hope to see you in the next video. And remember, whatever it is that you're working on, keep working on it because you are worth it. Bye.